later. All right, good afternoon, everybody. It's great, or good morning, I should say. Jeez Louise, I'm ahead of myself. Yeah, it's good to have everybody. We're going to get right to it today because we have a whole bunch of things that we're going to be doing. I'm Dave Lowe. I'm the CEO of isiFederal, and we'll talk a little bit about me. But first, we're going to talk about congratulating the Ravens for the Super Bowl, and I don't really care if anybody thinks that it's overdone. We're still in heavy celebration mode, even though it's over a week ago. So. Since the last webinar, though, we had not won yet, so I just want to make sure we put that out there. Just a couple of housekeeping things here for everybody. Number one, please make sure that you have your information on the right-hand side of your screen. If you type in your audio pin, we'll be able to unmute you, and we'll be able to engage in conversation, and that's something that we're going to be doing a lot today. So we really want to be able to include everybody. You can also chat on the bottom right-hand side, and you can send questions in. You can raise your hand with a particular question, and we will get to you. We'll be going back and forth a lot within this environment, so make sure that's there. A little bit about us with isiFederal. We are in the business of bridging the gap to be able to connect business with government and help them win contracts, and this we do in 3 different ways. One, we help them understand the federal market. We'll help you plan and strategize and prepare for that market so that you can go after it appropriately. And we can help you fill the gaps so that you can apply the appropriate resources. And that can be researching and directing where you're supposed to go and managing some of your team. We can also do an assist model where we are doing that grunt work, or we can oversee your team so that we know that they're going in the right direction and they're doing the right things the right way. We also have a service, full-blown service, where we can just pop in on with your sales team and become your federal sales team. So that's the feet on the street kind of thing that we do here in D.C. and Maryland and Virginia. We also are manning booths and things like that and going to strategic places. But most of the work we do is here in the D.C. area. Here's some of our clients. You'll notice that some are of the larger category with Northrop Grumman or folks that know Coastal Sun Belt around here. But most of them are in the $5 to $50 million range. So we like to be able to help the small business and medium-sized businesses compete for that. Some of our successes in 2012, we've identified it's now over 12,000 contacts within the federal space. We have provided thousands of introductions. We've seen a lot of opportunities, a lot of wins, and growth for our clients. One of our clients reached the Inc. number 300 spot in Link Services, and we want to congratulate them as well. We do have some special guests here. Umar Hameed, he's the founder and president of, what is the name of your other company? Because I know you as Mr. Breakthrough, but what is the name of your other company?
Productivity Cubed.
Productivity Cubed. Tell us a little bit about you, Umar, and why you're here.
Well, the background really is high-tech Silicon Valley, and the real frustration was, hiring people that have such amazing promise and not reaching it, and management teams sometimes behaving more like kindergarten kids than high-functioning leaders of companies. And about 10 years ago, that's a problem that needs solving. No one seems to be able to do it, and that's what I've kind of dedicated my life to, is how to change human behavior so we build stronger companies, stronger people, and happier lives.
And this is part of my passion. I don't spend a whole lot of time in this space, but it is absolutely part of my passion to help companies break through their obstacles. And when you're from the outside looking in, especially if you're on the federal side, you can see a whole bunch of things, a whole bunch of gaps that happen within the company. So we're going to be coming back to Umar for sure. We also have Jamie Zell. He's the Director of Sales and Marketing for GSAproposal.com. Say hello to everybody, Jamie.
Hello, Dave, and everybody out there. Hope everybody's having a great day and a good kickoff to the new year.
Yeah, absolutely. And why we love Jamie is he has, not only do they do GSA schedule development, they also help people to be able to maintain those schedules, but they also do live workshops. One that's happening right now, which is too late for you guys to get involved in, but you can go to GSAproposal.com live workshop, and it'll help you circumvent that. I know you're doing something in March or April, and we'll make sure that's on the website, right, Jamie?
Yeah, absolutely. We're just shoring up some dates. It looks like the next one is probably going to be mid-March, around the 17th, 18th, 19th probably, and we'll shore up those dates and update the website. But that's a time compression tool to get your GSA schedule built and off the GSA to get your schedule awarded as quickly as possible to then use that as a tool to win business with the federal government.
That's right, and it doesn't assure anything except a ticket to the dance, but it's very important. If you don't have a GSA schedule and you need one, check out gsaproposals.com. They're very reasonable. I send all my work there because of that, and we want to make sure, and the main reason is you have a 100% track record of being able to obtain those GSA schedules, which, as we know, is not an easy thing to attain, and they just keep working until they get it. So it's a wonderful thing. Andy's probably not going to be here, but every once in a while he'll pop in. He's with Haltz, Boozes, and Powell, and they run a CPA firm that understand the federal government. If your CPA doesn't, we recommend that at least you talk with them about some of the components for compliance issues and things like that. We love to send information to them. And also we have Carl Dickson here, who's the founder and president of CapturePlanning.com and Prop Library. Say hey, Carl.
Hey, everybody. I've also got a webinar coming up, actually a workshop, where we're going to be creating bid strategy reuse libraries and doing that interactively as a group. It's a new technique that we developed that is different from just like recycling old proposals. It's all about building them up from a strategic level and then mapping those strategies to places where you've seen them before. So that's something that we have coming up, and it's going to be free for Prop Library subscribers.
Cool. And when is that going to be?
It's going to start on the 21st.
21st. All right. So the big important thing, if you want to be involved in that, is go to proplibrary.com and sign up, and then you have access to that particular webinar. And what I love about Carl is his approach is a little different than mine. Mine is building relationships with the people, and while that's important, you also have to have the foundational components and understand the RFP. Now these wind up getting interwoven, and we're going to be talking about some of those things and interweaving these things today specifically. And Carl, I didn't send you that back to you, so I'm going to have to run that from here. So my apologies, but we'll work through that as well. We included a PowerPoint from Carl that's going to be part of this. So what you should expect of this particular webinar, it's a fire hose. We're going to blast you all the next 45 minutes or so. You're going to find that we don't follow the pack. We want you to be different. We want you to stand out. We want you to make a difference in the marketplace. We'll talk about business accelerators, just like Jamie said. There's ways to be able to accelerate your GSA proposal development. There's ways for you to be able to get in front of these people and accelerate your federal business strategy as well. We're going to give you help where you need it, and I always preface this to say not necessarily where you think you need it, because when it comes to these types of things, that's why I'm bringing in people like Umar and Carl and Jamie and other folks, and we may even have, I'm really hoping that some folks that I have met that are from Quantico are going to be here today. I'm not sure if they are yet. I see Heather's here. I don't know if that's the Heather from Quantico or not. If she is, raise your hand or give me a text so I know that that's the right Heather. So anyhow, if we have them, we're going to be talking with them as well. We'll get some insider information. We're also going to be providing shameless plugs because this is indeed free for everybody that's here, and you'll hear me plugging everybody that's here, including myself, shamelessly, of course. So why are we here today? We are here because we want to win federal business. And yes, that's a reference to the Super Bowl again, which you will get. But the objective here is to win. We're not here to just place. We're here to get to the place where we are actually booking business in the federal government. And what I say is now's the time to pounce on the federal market and capture ground to help your competition vacate their place. And that means we're going to go in strategically and start to pick off your customers, your competitors' best customers, and we have a way to be able to do that. Now, specifically today, I'm not going to be talking about our strategy or anything like that other than, or the types of products that we offer. We'll do that at the end. We'll give you a little place where you can take a look at what we do, but I want to be specific about what we're talking about here. One, we're going to stop doing what doesn't work, and we're start doing what does work. In order to get to where you want to go, you have to know where you are. And we're not just talking about where your company is positioned. While that is important, we're really going to dig into your mindset and what's blocking you from being able to get to where you want to go. You also need to know where you want to be. And part of that is understanding the mindset of the people on the other side in the federal government that really they don't think like business folks like you and me. We've got to be able to apply ourselves into their world and understand where our worlds conflict. We're going to identify obstacles, and we're going to break through those obstacles. And with that, I'm going to introduce, again, Umar, who is Mr. Breakthrough, and we're going to talk about some of the things that get in our way. What are some of the things that you see out there for sales folks that are trying to crack into a market? What do you see out there that gets in their way, and how do you help them unplug those things?
Well, one of the biggest there's a quote from Pogo, used to be a columnist a long time ago. It's like, we've met the enemy, and the enemy is us. And in sales, the number one enemy is always our mindset, because most salespeople are driven people, want to succeed, and a lot of times they pull their punches when they're actually going out there doing what they're supposed to do. And I think the ultimate frontier is, how do we kind of meet our fears, overcome them, and when we do that, we get spectacular results.
So part of it is, and a line I know we've talked about people just picking up the phone and doing cold calling. Everybody loves a cold call, right? So what are some of the things that you see for folks that have that type of a fear, and how do you help them break through that particular fear?
Well, there's three places where people get stuck, and when you get stuck, that's where fear actually manifests. One of the places that we get stuck is our beliefs. We have beliefs about cold calling, about our capabilities, about how people on the other end of that conversation, how they're feeling. And so if we have limiting beliefs around the effectiveness of cold calling, we have beliefs about whether they're welcome or not, whether they work or not. Like if I asked most salespeople, do cold calls work? The answer is going to be no. But when you look at the data really shows that people on the other side of that phone call conversation, if you are relevant to what they need, they want to have that conversation. And if you've got something of value and they're already selecting candidates for that particular initiative, they're going to put you at the top of the list. So if your mindset is cold calling doesn't work, you know what? You're right.
That's absolutely right. If you believe it, it's the truth. It's absolutely the truth. I also want to dive into something because I know Umar is involved in neuro-linguistic programming, NLP, right? Give us a high-level overview of what NLP is.
So NLP is, our entire existence really is the way we perceive it. And the way we perceive things is with our brain. So what we see, what we hear, what we touch, what we feel, what we smell. And NLP is a toolkit that allows us to change the way we think, change the way we react. So let me give you an example will be the best way to describe it. I had this salesperson come in, and they're doing about like $150,000 a year, so fairly successful, love what they do, but they can't seem to break through that barrier. So they come in, and it's like, I'm not sure what's got me stuck, but no matter how hard I try, I can't seem to break through. So they come in, and using a tool from neuroscience, we were able to say, okay, when's the last time you were fretting about not doing better than 150? They said, well, it happens all the time. 2 days ago, I got off the phone, and I was having the feeling of, what the hell's going on? So we used a neuroscience tool to figure out what's going on, and it tied to a belief that they got when they were 5 years old. Like instantly, without them thinking about it, their unconscious goes there. Their dad had come home after, it was a Friday afternoon, and that was a day and age you got paychecks every Friday afternoon. And his dad had lost his paycheck on the way home. When he realized it was missing, his dad started to cry, and he'd never actually cried before, and it set up a belief about his father, money, and him. And what was going on was, now he's an adult, he's earning $150,000 a year, and his dad never earned more than 80. And there was this belief in his unconscious that I'm disrespecting my father. With NLP, we were able to figure out what was causing the problem, and literally within an hour and a half, change the belief, install the new one inside his neurology. The better I do, the more of a testament I am to how great my dad was. Plug it back in there. I get a call a week later saying, I'm not sure what the hell you did, but it's like 100 pounds have been lifted off me, and my performance level has gone through the roof. So that's what NLP does. Is it figures out where you're blocked, unblocks you, so you get spectacular results.
And it's also components of communication, of being able to identify when you're in rapport and when you're not. And that's what I love about it, is one of the biggest obstacles that we have is building rapport and maintaining that rapport and understanding when we are in rapport and when we're not. If we understand that, then we know when we have influence and when we don't. And this is why this stuff just rocks my world. You mentioned a couple of different things, and we really haven't gone over this very much. We touched this at about 10:52 about what we were going to talk about. And this is what I love, is that when we have these types of dialogues, we're talking about mindsets. And the mindsets that we have about, you mentioned a couple things about being stuck, unsecure, feeling whipped, feeling like you can't get through that place. If you're in that type of place, I recommend that you reach out to Umar and have him help you unplug those things. And it's not like you have to go through 180 sessions of this thing to be able to start to identify it. Umar is very, very good at being able to say, here's what I say, here's what you're telling me is coming out. Here's what it was. And I'll bet you, but how long did it take you to be able to identify that it was when he was 5 years old and there was a father type of situation? This is deep stuff.
An hour and a half from when he walked in, we figured out what it was, we changed it, sent him on his way. So it's when I tell people you can get change that changes your life in a positive way really quickly, people just don't believe it. But if I tell people a story about where somebody gets stuck or gets a lifelong phobia, happens in a moment, everyone's like, yep, I can believe that. And I'm here to tell you that change happens in an instant for good or bad. Our brains are so powerful that they can change on a dime, and if you got the right toolkit, you can do amazing things. And one of the things you were talking about, Dave, was that rapport with people. I'm going to be doing a speech in Baltimore at PSA near the end of the month on the 26th. And one of the things I'll be teaching people is when you're sitting in front of someone, you can find out literally within 2 minutes how that human being makes buying decisions. So not how the federal organization makes decisions, but how that human being makes decisions in their unconscious mind. And when you figure that out, it takes your sales career to a whole new level. And that's what I also love about NLP is the access to that kind of power when you're interacting with other human beings, whether it's your son that you want to support in baseball, or it's like the biggest federal contractor you ever come across and closing that account.
Absolutely, and that's exactly what we're going to start talking about, because I want to challenge everybody, and I did a survey, so I have a whole bunch of answers, but I want to challenge people on how they feel about government workers. When you say government workers, I'm going to use 3 letters, and we're going to take us down this path, and we're going to talk about a belief structure that we all have. I'm telling you, I can't imagine anybody on this call that doesn't have this, and the 3 letters are DMV. If this does not turn you into this guy, or lady, I'm sorry, I picked a guy, but because this is me, it does not really. But when I think of DMV, it absolutely makes my head explode, and it makes me absolutely frustrated, because you can tell, I can tell you, everybody knows this. And when we go to a DMV, I was there, I don't know, 2 or 3 months ago to do something, and it's just like, just shoot me now, because I just my ability to handle it is really challenging, because you can tell one of the DMV workers whether they have the badge on or not, and everybody knows exactly what I'm saying. And the belief structure is very simple. It's that we then start to think of government workers as lazy, entitled, slow, and they don't understand business. So what happens with this is it becomes part of our being, and then we start to project this to the very people that we're trying to reach. Is this true, Umar?
Absolutely. It's whenever there's a quote from the Talmud, which I guess is the Jewish religious text. It says, "We do not see the universe as it is; we see it as we are." And if we think that they're unintelligent, uncooperative, and unmotivated, that's what we find. There was a really interesting study that I'm sure all of you have heard of, where they had, primary school teachers, and they went to a particular class and told the teachers that, these two kids, we've tested them, and they're highly gifted. They're genius level. And just looking at the grade level of those kids, and those kids were not gifted or talented, just the teacher was told in secret, these two, they call them late spurters. You haven't seen this so far, but we've studied it. They're going to do awesome this year. And those kids do phenomenally well because the teacher changes the way they interact with those kids because her belief has changed. And they've repeated that experiment time and time again. And we do the same thing when we look at government workers, is if we think they're helpful, intelligent, and they get it, we change the way we communicate with them and we go much further. When we think they're going to be lazy, entitled, and slow, and they don't understand business, voila, that's what we get.
We get what we project. And this is one of the things, and I'm just going to touch on this in a minute. This is one of the things when you're picking up the phone and you're doing cold calls, if your expectation is you're going to get rejected, guess what? You're going to get rejected because you're going to be rocking back on your heels. You're going to be saying the wrong things. You're going to be stuttering. You're going to be doing everything that's wrong because you are expecting that person to say, "You're an idiot. You're a moron. Go jump off a bridge and don't ever come back in my entire lifetime." That's what our expectations. We achieve our expectations of people as we project these, and I'm telling you, this happens on a regular basis. So, in order to be able to fix that, we need to retool our belief structure, or we will project that belief on that person. And guess what? Let's talk about who they are. Let's talk about the government worker. Let's talk about how they feel. And my belief, and I studied some of NLP, not anywhere near where Umar has been, but my fundamental belief is that when we go to make a decision, we go to how we feel. Eventually it gets to a place of feeling. And we may talk about it in auditory terms, like hear, or how does that sound, or we may talk about it in visual terms about what we see and our vision and all those kinds of things. And these are all products and components of NLP. But when it comes down to it, my core is that they will revert to something, they will tie it to something of how they feel. And that's why the subconscious communication is so strong when we're projecting these types of things, and people can see it in our eyes. You know you can see it. The federal workers feel underappreciated, and I asked them, I've been asking people, how do you feel about your job? What do you feel? How do you feel about it? I feel underappreciated, overworked, unfulfilled. Nobody listens to them, and nobody cares what they think. So here you have crazy man saying, "Oh my gosh, you guys are totally incompetent," with somebody who feels like this. You have a recipe for disaster. So in order to be able to retool some of that thinking, we're going to talk about these federal workers and what they do so that you can gain an appreciation for what they do and start to address. First of all, you have to identify that you have that belief structure, and you have to believe us when we tell you that you're projecting it. There's two things that you have to fundamentally believe, or this is just not going to work.
And Dave,
yeah.
One of the ways to kind of uncover that, I guess a lot of people on the call today are going to be salespeople, plus they deal with the federal government.
Or owners of companies. Yep.
Create a simple sentence, and this is the magic sentence. Federal workers are, and then just write it down, and then finish that sentence, and keep on finishing that sentence with a different response each time, whatever pops up. And after about the 12th time, you're going to start uncovering your deep-seated beliefs about who you think federal workers are, and that's the first place to start. And if you're a salesperson, finish the sentence, salespeople are, and what you normally hear is outgoing, intelligent, driven, and then sleazy, lazy. And so do that exercise on both those, and that's where you uncover your beliefs, and that's the first step to changing, is knowing what's in your unconscious mind.
Okay, so everybody, man, you have no idea how valuable what Umar just said is. This can change your world. This can change your life. If you write those things down, I don't care what it is. My wife is. You can start with that, and then you'll get your fundamental belief structure. Whatever it is, write those things down. And you're absolutely right, because salespeople, that's what they're seeing. They're seeing salespeople from the other side. They're seeing people that are sleazy. The used cars. All you want is money from me, and then I'm never going to see you again. And you don't care whether you screw me or not. That's what they think. So think about this where we are with who they are, how they operate, and what they think. So we kind of dove into a little bit of this, but in a few minutes we're going to talk about what they do, how they think, what motivates them, how you can influence them, and most importantly, what they need from you. Now, there's going to be a couple of different avenues that we go down when we talk about what they need from you, because part of that is what we've been talking about, and I think it's the most important part, because guess what? Most of the folks that are out there and selling to these people and trying to get them to buy into what they do are missing the key piece in dealing with them as human beings. They're missing it. And we all miss it. You know why? Because we're thinking of our business. We're thinking about what we want. We're thinking about what we want to achieve as opposed to what they need from us. So I'm going to tell you about the three primary players in small business procurement. Sometimes there's only two because this role is fulfilled by two. I call these decision clusters. And it starts with your project manager or program manager, depending on the size of the opportunity. You have your technical representative, that could be core, COTAR, whatever the heck they call it in their agency, and then you have your contracting officer who's responsible for actually the procurement itself. You have a particular project that comes up, and they kind of get joined at the hip for this, because the project manager may say, hey, I need this. And it could be as simple as I need a box of paper. That could be that. But usually if a project manager is involved in some form or fashion, I need to meet a specific requirement or need in the federal space, and I need it to look like this. The most important thing to know is each one of these folks have different roles, they have different needs, and they all have different buying motives. And not only that, if you dissect that a little bit further, we're going to be on a high level, and we're going to be talking about, some of this is stereotype, but there's a reason why stereotypes exist, specifically why we have stereotypes about federal workers. We're going to talk about the buying motives of these folks and how to be able to attach to them at a high level. So let's talk about the project manager or program manager first. These folks are responsible for helping drive the initiatives. They could be higher in the organization, so they're driving it down through the organization and down through their project managers if they're on a program side, if it's enterprise-wide. But some of the things that you see that are hot today, green, cloud computing, security, all these things are very high in the federal space. Some of it's cost-cutting and cost-saving, which is a double-edged sword, because if they save the money over here, they really don't want to save the money necessarily because that affects their budget. And if they lose their budget, they lose power. So you have to, if you understand how power works in the federal space, you can understand how cost-cutting and cost-saving is a two-edged sword. Some of these things are political. We have highly political components with healthcare right now, where it's being driven down with healthcare exchanges and things like that. So you look for those initiatives, and these are the folks that are saddled, if you will, with making these things work. They are looking for new ideas and new technologies. They're not on the bleeding edge, though. They're not even really on the cutting edge. They want to see something that's proven, but they are interested in something new. And remember that the federal government is lagging behind for a while in their technology and their adoption and all those things. So where we are now is probably 2, 3, 4 years ahead, depending on what we do in that. So the biggest part of this is they are influenceable by the scope of and the requirements within the scope and the capabilities that you have or the capabilities that they require. So you have the ability to inject these. We are the ones, you and me, are the ones that are giving them this information to say, hey, this is what's important and this is what should be included in the scope. Their job is to get the job done right. They tie it back into the initiatives, and you'll see. I'm hoping. Oh my goodness, I'm hoping that we can have a good friend of mine who just retired from the FAA, and we worked on a project together, and I want him to explain the political components of being able to get buy-in from all the folks that are in there, and tying it in with the initiatives, and tying it in with the needs of all the other people. Brilliant. The biggest thing, help them look good. This is a core human emotion, a core human need, if you will, for us to look good, to feel good about what we do on a daily basis. So it's our job to help them look good and feel good. The technical representative, these are the folks that kind of tie and bridge the gap between the project manager and the contracting officer that we're going to talk about in just a minute. They usually report to the project manager. Sometimes they are the PM in this instance, where there really isn't this person in the middle. They're generally risk averse, and they assist in assembling the requirements, and those technical requirements we're going to be talking about, and Carl's going to be talking about this in a few minutes. But they kind of tie in the government standards. They look to see what's happening in other places, identifying similar purchases. And this is some of the things where you can affect, and that's in certifications, where you can inject the important certifications that are necessary in order to make sure that this stuff gets done right and what should be included in the mandatory requirements. If you ever see an RFP that has a whole bunch of certifications in it that are required, I'm telling you, somebody made that decision, and it's probably influenced from somebody outside of the government because they're saying, hey, these are what are important. They help to determine the requirements, and again, help them look good. Not complicated. Core human need. The next is looking at contracting officers, and this goes to what we were just talking about. They are busy. Some of these folks have 300 contract requirements on their desks right now. Are they busy? Yeah, they're busy. And do they feel dumped on? Yeah, they do. They're busy, and they will not teach you how to do your job in selling to them. They are absolutely risk averse. They do not want to try anything new. They want to know that you have the past performance to be able to fulfill this, and that you are a safe bet for buying from and doing the services. They don't like new things. They are experts in moving paper. This is not to diminish what they do, but they really don't care what you do. They don't care what your service is. They don't care. And I want to get that clear. Their job is to move paper. Can you help them move that paper is the real question that they have. They develop the contracts. They often administer the contracts after the award, not necessarily, but often they do. They want the fastest way to purchase. They choose the way to purchase. They choose whether it's going to go out to an RFP for full and open competition, or if it's going to be set aside for small business or 8A. They'll decide what NAICS code they're going to put it under. They're going to decide what type of contract vehicle they're going to use, whether they're going to do GSA or which could be minimally competed. Did you know that? They can compete that between 3 GSA holders. They can do that, or they can compete it. They don't have to compete at all. They can do a sole source justification. They can do anything that makes sense to them. So 2 things that are very important. Easy is good. Think about it. Easy is good, and make them feel valued. This goes back to that core piece that we've been talking about all day so far, is what is value to them? What is valuable to them? Some of that is just human interface with real people that care about what they do. Now, they're going to be suspect because they know that your job is to do business. That's your job. Your job is to win business. But the question is, can you build the rapport to make them feel valued quickly and then be able to attach that as being a good thing to do business with you? And I'm going to reach out to Umar real quick. Can you do that, Umar? Can you build rapport so fast or quickly enough to be able to have them understand that you value them, and then in turn that you should feel valued and you should be somebody that you should do business with? Can you do it quickly? Absolutely. You can actually build rapport within a couple of minutes that's strong, where the other person really feels like they've known you all their lives. And I'll give you 2 quick data points. Number 1, in our minds we have these things called mirror neurons, that their whole purpose for being is to connect with other people that you meet. A good example of that is walking down the hallway and somebody smiles at you that you don't know, and you just smile back without knowing why. It's those mirror neurons kicking in and making you do that. And here's the second data point. You can't get 2 cultures, 2 people that are more different than the Japanese and Americans. And if you take a look at American faces where they're feeling an emotion, you can show it to the average person in Japan and say, what's this person feeling? And they'll tell you with precision, this person is sad or dejected or happy or joyous, and they can identify, like 40 emotions just from facial expressions. So we're all the same. And the way to, once you connect in that first 2 minutes, good way is to just take on the volume of their voice.
So if they talk louder than you, be a little louder than you normally are, and the speed, just do that one simple thing, and you create a connection that's pretty deep. And we can teach you other skills that'll make you a superstar at this. But if your listeners just do that one thing, match the volume and the speed of speech, you'll build lasting relationships really, really quickly, whether it's the waitress at the restaurant or a government purchasing officer.
And one of the things, in order to be able to make that work, is you have to believe that you can create that type of deep relationship in 2 minutes, something that could rival somebody that they've known their whole life.
And we've all done it. We've all had these odd experiences where you're on a plane or you meet someone and you get that, wow, it's like I've known them. So we're capable of doing it. You just need to believe you can do it purposefully with the best of intentions, and you get much better quality of life, and you put more money in the bank. So cha-ching.
That's exactly right. So with that, that's the interpersonal relationship that can be built within moments. One of my favorite books that I recommend in this type of thing is Blink by Malcolm Gladwell, who talks about how we wind up, he calls it thin slicing, where we wind up starting to judge people. We do it all the time. We're judging people and we're putting people in our perspective all the time. And it happens within milliseconds of the time that we start interacting with somebody. From the time we see them, our first interaction, our first reaction, our first dance, if you will. Do we smile? Do we not? Do we, you know, as guys we kind of do that, hey, we're nodding our head and that kind of thing. What is it about it? And where's the level of rapport? And how does the level of rapport get created? And it can be manufactured and created from literally thin air. It really can. Now I'm going to reach out to Carl, who again is the founder of CapturePlanning.com and runs Prop Library, which is a great place. If you haven't been there, you've got to go there and see how much free stuff is there that you can see, and then understand that it's well worth what he does. And I'm going to hand it over to you. You just tell me when you want me to advance that slide, because I can't give you control from my side, and I didn't send this to you, so I apologize, Carl. But go right ahead and take over.
I like what you said earlier about how you do and what we do are sort of interwoven, because you've really got that whole customer contact thing solid. What we tend to focus on is more of the process-oriented stuff, but you need both of them together to really make things work, and you'll really see that in what I want to talk about today. I want to talk about how you can gain a competitive advantage by understanding the customer's acquisition process. So by looking at the steps that the government has to go through to buy things and being able to anticipate those steps, you can actually turn that to your advantage and use that to beat your competitors. Can I get the next slide?
Yep, and I think what's really interesting about this is that we're touching on, like Carl said, is that there are steps that are in all these types of things for the federal government, and you can't escape those steps. There are pieces that they need in order to be able to fulfill a procurement that you just don't have in the private sector. So go right ahead.
Okay. Best way to learn about me is just to go to CapturePlanning.com and Prop Library. There are hundreds of articles there, and I wrote most of them, and from those you can see the kind of things that we recommend, and it's really those approaches and techniques that matter. So we'll just skip me. Let's go on to the next slide. All right, so every once in a while you get lucky. You're talking with the customer, you've been introduced to them. It could be at a trade show, you could be at their office, it could be anywhere, all right? And while you're talking to them, they mention about something they're interested in buying, something they want to do, something they want to get, all right? And they're just now starting to think about it. And at that moment, all right, that's like the golden moment, okay? So what should you do with that? All right? What should your next step be? And if you think the next step should be to start selling to them, you're wrong. Your next steps really should be gaining an information advantage. Using that, using what you know to influence the specification, and then starting to build the relationship so that you'll get more revelations from the customer. Because really what you're trying to do is get into position to win. And to get into position to win, you need to know things about the customer's preferences, things that may never even show up in the RFP. And the things that you know enable you to do to write the winning proposal. But some other things that you want to do aren't just about discovering information. Influencing the specification is about making sure when that RFP comes out that there are things in there that are easy for you and difficult for your competitors. And so, you know, when you have that wonderful opportunity where the customer's told you that they're thinking about something, instead of just going straight to selling, you want to start thinking about, okay, tell me more. What can I learn about this? And then sharing some of your thoughts that may actually influence the specification. And in that give and take, you're building a relationship so that as they continue to work toward, go through all of the hundreds of steps they're going to have to go through to turn this desire into a procurement, that they'll keep you informed and chat with you about them from time to time.
And that's huge. Huge. It's where we all want to be, because that puts us ahead of the RFP process, right?
That's where we're trying to get. But even though you know you want to get ahead of the RFP, it's hard to figure out like how to do that. And a key part of knowing how to do that is understanding their process. Can I get the next slide?
You bet.
Because the big problem that somebody in the government who wants to buy something has is they can't just go out and buy it, at least not normally. If it's small, maybe, but if they want something big or something complex, they can't just go get it. They have to go through the procurement process. Can I get the next slide? There are steps that they have to follow, many, many steps, and there is paperwork, lots of paperwork.
And we salespeople love paperwork. Just want to add that.
Can I get the next one?
Yep.
Here are some examples of some of the steps and some of the paperwork. All right. They have to decide what contract vehicle they're going to use. Are they going to put this out on a GSA schedule? Is it going to be an RFP? Can they do it as a task order under an IDIQ? What type of contracting vehicle can they use? Along the way, they got to figure out where's the money going to come from. Do they have it in their budget? Can they fund it? Those are actually two separate things, budget and funding. Assuming that they've got the money, they also have to figure out whether it's going to be a small business set-aside or not. And there are steps they have to go through to formally make that determination. They involve doing things like market surveys. They have to find out whether small businesses can do the work, whether there's enough small businesses, whether if they put an RFP out, anybody's going to respond. They actually have to do these market surveys and answer those questions before they put the RFP out, before they write the RFP. Then when they sit down to write the RFP, they've got to go through what the evaluation process is going to be and what the evaluation criteria is going to be. They've got to get together all of their requirements and write about it. And the thing about that is that if you're buying something that you need because you don't have the expertise, if you're buying something, if you're looking for somebody else to be the expert, it's really hard to write the RFP. How do you write an RFP to define the requirements for something that you're not the expert in? But the government has to do that every day. They also have to decide things like, once they've got the RFP written, should they put it out as a draft and get comments back from industry? Should they issue a sources sought? These are just a few examples of what are literally hundreds of steps in the procurement process, and each one of them is a problem.
A problem for who?
They're a problem for the government person who just wants to buy something.
Yep.
Okay, because they have now decisions, they have approvals, they have research that they have to do, as well as paperwork to complete. So they have to figure out how they're going to complete every step. It's not just simply a matter of fill out the form and then they can buy it. They have to gather up all of this information and figure it out. Can I get the next slide? Each one of these steps in their process is a chance to influence the process. When they sit down and have to figure out what contract vehicle is best for what they're trying to buy, if you've had a conversation with them, if you've started a relationship, that's an opportunity to make a suggestion, to suggest why GSA schedule is a good fit for what they're trying to buy, or to suggest that GSA schedule is the wrong way to go. Depending on whether your company is on the GSA schedule, you might want to influence them to go that way or not go that way. And so every step in their process is a chance for you to make recommendations. You can make recommendations. They have to, very early in the process, decide what the budget is going to be for this thing that they're going to procure, but they haven't even defined what the thing that they're going to procure is. So there's a big chance that, especially if they're not an expert in what they are procuring, that they have no idea how much it should cost, how much they should put in their budget. They could be looking for information about that. Not necessarily somebody to say, well, here's the price of my product, and you can buy it from me right now. No, what they're looking for is, how should I set my budget? And they're not at this stage looking necessarily for a vendor-specific solution, but if you can provide them with just some information to help them get past the hurdle of how do I set my budget, then that by helping them with that step, you're building the relationship. You're finding out more about the opportunity. You're trying to build your information advantage. Same thing with the other steps that they have to go through, whether to make it a small business set-aside or not, and if so, which categories. How to set the evaluation criteria for the RFP if it ends up going that route. What the requirements should be, especially when they're not an expert in the subject matter, even though they're the buyer. You can help them get past those problems. They have to write an RFP and they're not the expert. They need information. They want information. They want your input. And along with your input, there's a chance for you to influence things.
Absolutely.
Can I get the next one?
Yep. I think so. There you go.
The thing to know, though, is that timing is everything. Because if you give them information too early, they won't be able to act on it. If you start talking about the requirements for the RFP before they've even figured out what the contract vehicle is going to be, they're focused on the contract vehicle. They don't even know whether they're going to have to write an RFP. So all that talking that you're doing about the requirements might just be, going off into the air someplace and not actually, having any impact on the procurement. You need to know what step they're on in order to make sure that the information you're giving them is the information that they need to solve the problem that they're dealing with at that moment. To know what step they're on, you've got to know what their process is. If you come in too late, all right, if you come in while they're working on the RFP and you start trying to tell them, well, they really ought to go GSA schedule instead, they're too far down the process. They're not backing up, just because, you think that they should. They're now invested in, they've already completed that paperwork, okay? They might not even want to talk to you about that, all right? Plus, if you're coming in late, there's a real good chance that somebody else got there first, and now you're shut out.
Guarantee it. I guarantee it.
So you definitely want to avoid, coming in too late, but you want to be there early, but when you're there early, you want to be focused on what step they're on and understand
at the moment.
The process.
And this is really cool, because this is where our worlds overlap again, right here. Because if I think about how to be able to be in the right place at the right time, that means that you have to be with them and on them regularly, so that you're communicating with them regularly to find out where they are in their process. If you understand what their process and structure is, which that is definitely your world, Carl, because and this is where I love what you do, because if I understand where they are, it gives me great information. Now, that information can shift in a second and we got to be paying attention to where they are and say, oh yeah, they're going to be getting close to this, so we can start to ask the question, when do you think that's going to happen, and then we can influence that process. Absolutely.
Can I get the next one?
Yep.
Because it's all about perfecting your timing.
Yep.
All right. What you just said, all right, means that you've got to know what step they're on, which means you need to know their acquisition process. And the good news here is they publish it. You can generally go on the internet, you can get their process. You can probably get the manuals that they use to train their own staff on what their process is, because usually they put them out there. Okay, it's government information. If it's not top secret, it's publicly available. When you look at their manuals, then you start to see things like what thresholds, when do they have to get 3 bids, when do they have to put out an RFP. You start to see things like what criteria do they use to make these decisions, and you start to see where they need information, so that when you talk to them and you find out what problem they're trying to solve, you know what information to give them based on what step they're on. And now your role isn't about selling your product. Your role is about helping them take the next step. It's all about, what you can do to help them so that they can complete their process.
And that goes to helping them make it easy. Make it easy for them.
Yep.
And sometimes, I'm telling you, man, this is so cool, because you can give them sample scopes of work and they may use it verbatim. You can do that. Or if they're at the order standpoint, you can give them their standard form, filled out, ready to go, with the appropriate part numbers and item numbers, and you can give it to them. This is what it should look like, and they will flip over that, because you're in their world.
You can give them a white paper or just an email explaining which contract vehicles you think work for buying that kind of a product. You can give them information about how you go about setting, the budget for buying that kind of a product. You can give them information at every step, and the information that you give them can find its way into the procurement documents, into the RFP.
And it happens all the time, by the way. You ready for the next one?
Yeah.
All right.
All right. So helping them means, first off, you have to have a process of your own. Okay. You have to know, what information you have and what information you need to give them, and when you need to give it. You have to have your own steps that track to their steps. You need to be able to track progress. It's not just simply enough that you were there and they said they want to buy this thing, and so you know that in the next few months you need to be ready to send them a quote for it. No, you've got to track their progress. Like Dave said a few minutes ago, now you need to be talking with them on a frequent and regular basis, and not just calling up and saying, hi, is it time for me to sell this to you yet, but calling up and asking them about the problems that they're facing in their procurement process and what kind of information they might need next. Doing that helps you get in a position to win, because at each step you're learning more. You're learning what their contract vehicle preferences are. You're learning how they go about making something a small business set aside. You're learning about how they go about preparing an RFP and what kind of information they'll accept from you and how to have influence with them. And these things that you're learning are your information advantage. Okay? These things that you're learning will enable you to write a proposal that not only talks about the requirements in the statement of work, but also talks about what goals they were trying to achieve on that very first day when they said, you know, I think we need to do this. I think we need to get this or buy this so that we can fulfill our mission. Now you can actually talk about what their goals are and not just about what the requirements are. Okay? And all of that ends up adding to something that makes your proposal, which is what you need to actually close this sale, substantially better than your competitors, because everybody's writing to the same RFP. Okay? But if you can actually reflect what the customer wants, as opposed to simply responding to anonymously to an RFP, that gives you a competitive advantage. And so understanding their acquisition process ultimately produces that competitive advantage.
Ready for the next?
Ready for the next, although I think that might have been it.
Okay, cool. We're going to open it up real quick. I meant to do this earlier, so I apologize. Any questions or comments on what we've talked about? We've done a lot of different things here where we've talked about the processes and also getting in the heads of the people that are on the other side so that you can understand where your barriers are, and most importantly is to start to identify those barriers and why you're having trouble there. Let's see if we have any questions. Question from, let's see. My problem is, this is Don. Don says, my problem is I don't know where the people are. I don't know who the folks are to be able to do this. Well, great. I will help you out on that, but give me a minute and we'll get back to that particular piece because that's one of the things that we can help you with. Another question from Mark is and he doesn't have access to the phone, so I think this is more in line with Umar to say, his question is, how can you get them to like you when they're getting calls all the time? They're getting calls all the time from folks like us. How do you get them to like you in situations like that?
So what we need to do is, if we can research the person we're calling, and LinkedIn is like the best tool on the planet for that, is a quick LinkedIn search to figure out, where they went to school, what's relevant for them, is a great way of finding out information. You can also just Google their name if they won an award or they were somehow singled out. And in that conversation is, so like, hey Dave, I noticed that you went to school at University of Maryland. I went there too. Instantly, it makes us connected. So that's
right.
One of the best, fastest ways is to just do a quick Google search on them or a LinkedIn search and find what the commonality is. And as soon as you do that, it changes the landscape of the conversation. It goes from total stranger bugging me to we got something in common, and that's the human need to connect just takes over.
And I think one of the things that you said is really critical, and that is finding that commonality point. And we're all different, and if we can only connect with people that we're like, we're in trouble. Because most of the people don't think like we do, and in fact it's a very small percentage of people that think and act like we do. So we know that certain people within our inner circle, even our inner circle, may not really think and act like we do. We just have a connection with our inner circle. So the same thing goes here, is that being able to identify something relatively quickly, and one of the ways that I like to do it is, and I don't bow to them and say, hey, I know you're really busy, thanks for taking my call. That's not how I do it. I treat them as if. I act as if we're friends already. That's the first step that I take, is to say, hey, Umar, how you doing today? I'm just checking in. I wanted to shoot you over a capability statement that we have, but I wanted to make sure you knew I was real before I sent it, and that way we're already breaking down the barriers, and you already think like you know me already, and I'm acting like it. And we as human beings tend to react as we're approached. So if people act friendly towards us, if they smile, we tend to smile. If we act as if we're friends, then they would act as if we're friends as well. And if we act as if we're telemarketers trying to bother them in the middle of the day, we're going to get that exact result. So I love that question as well. We're running out of time here, so I do want to be real quick. I want to review. We did review the contracting officers a little bit more, and I think when we talk about procurement, especially in the RFP process, the people that we're working with oftentimes are the contracting officers. And what Carl was saying, easy is good, make it easy for them. Review this and make sure that you keep this in mind, because these are some of the parameters that, even when we're talking about what Umar was talking about, these are how they operate. These are how they think. And if we kind of take the mode of saying, all right, they think that they're busy, even if they're not busy, they think they're busy, and we want to make sure that that we're hitting each one of these things. We're not calling them frivolously. We have a purpose, and we're not asking them to teach us how to do what we do. We're not expecting them to take risks. We're going to show them how safe we are. We're not going to show them that it's a new thing. Hey, this is something that's tried and proven. We've done this for a long time. Not only that, we can help you understand how it fits in your procurement process. And that way it'll be easier for you to select your purchasing mechanism and develop those contract documents. And if you happen to administer after the award, you'll know exactly how that works. And it'll be easy and fast for you to purchase. I just reframed what we do in their mind, in how we need to present that. If we present it in their mind, we will get them to where they want to go. And again, now's the time to act, to take advantage of the companies who don't adapt and change. There's a whole bunch of change out there. A third of the contracting officers are going to be retiring. That means the hooks in your competitors that your competitors have in those accounts are at risk. You also have change within the organizations that they're not paying attention to. You can pounce on these people and do it. I want to leave you with this. Be different. Don't be like everybody else. If you're going to one of these procurement things, dress up like a chicken, do something different. Make sure that they remember who you are. You can stand out with the right message, with the right people at the right time, and they will remember who you are. We do have a webinar special. I'll get to that in a minute. First step is to get smart, identifying your market, identifying your competition, and let your market determine your buyers. And that's directly contrary to what the SBA, the OSDBUs and OSBUs, and the GSA advise. This is very important. In order for you to be different, act different, look for different places, make sure you're going to the place. Buyers will go to who they know. Carl said it. You need to be there at the right time. You can't possibly be there at the right time if you don't know who the buyer is before the thing hits the street on Fed BizOps. You can't do it. You've got to be there ahead of time. So you've got to go to who they know, and we can help you find those people. And then here come the facts. Fact one is people buy from people they like. It doesn't change in the federal government. It doesn't change with what you do every day. If you don't like somebody, you're not buying from them. And they can't buy from you unless they know who you are. Fact number two is relationships trump the check boxes. Take a look at Northrop Grumman or any of the big companies. They are not small business. They don't have small business set-asides. What they have is relationships. They're deep and wide, and they know the people that they're working with. And if they like you, they will figure out a way to buy from you. Even if your methodology may be a little bit different or a little bit more difficult. Hopefully not, because one of the reasons they like you is because you make it easy for them to be able to buy from you. So if they like you, they'll figure out a way. So buyers need political cover, technical cover, pricing cover, and they want it to be easy. And here's the approach that it is. Your approach helps in your political environment. Top-down selling works in the federal government just like it does out in the private sector. Your technical cover comes from your proposal and your ability to respond to that proposal and be competent in your response. And then your pricing cover comes from your contract vehicle. Oftentimes it's GSA, and that's why we make sure we get folks to Jamie. You got to put in a nice little box, give it to them, help them get to that next spot. Brilliant part there, Carl. Help them do the next step. If you can help them do the next step, it's like giving them gifts all day long, and they really appreciate those things. So with that, if you have any other questions, we'll get back to that in just a minute. I do want to let everybody go because we went long, but that's okay. But give the buyers what they need. Not necessarily what you sell. Value them. Understand their world and their processes. Take the time to understand that so that you can connect with them. And then you will be able to win. Don't do what everybody else is doing. If you do that, you're going to get the same results. Be different. Stand out. Move now. You got 230 days left till the end of September. Critical in your process, critical in your world, in your sales world, and that means start doing the math backwards. That means in August they're going to be finalizing their requirements for the following year, and they're going to be kind of tied up. You're going to start losing people in August. Why is that important? It's only freaking February. It's important because if you're not in front of these people, starting to understand where they are in their processes and what steps they are, you're going to be missing their step. You're going to lose. You're going to lose because somebody else is going to be in there and they're going to eat your lunch. I'm positive of it. We do have a webinar special. It's regularly $4,500. Today it's $3,000. If you need help with your value propositions or any other things and helping with feet on the street in D.C., helping your company grow, we can help you do that in the federal market. We do have a coupon for a prop library, which is $100 off. Is that what I see there, Carl?
Yep.
And to use 100-off, and you get $100 off. Great deal. Great deal. If you have any more questions for Carl, shoot him an email. Visit him at captureplanning.com and Prop Library. That's a great place to be. In fact, what we can do is we have both of our major pieces, which is our intelligence along with Carl's stuff. You can buy both for $5,000. You can do that now on your site, right? Right, Carl? Is that right?
That's right.
Okay, cool. So, and that will help you there. The other thing is your GSA schedule workshop. If you're interested in that, check out Jamie with his group at gsaproposal.com. If you want to do the live workshop, it's right there. You can click on that as well. So with that, I'm going to let everybody go because it's 7 minutes after 12. And other than that, congratulations to the Ravens. If you have any more questions, please shoot me an email, and we'll be glad to answer those questions and keep you guys informed. We really appreciate you joining us today, and I'm sorry that we didn't have time to really go into additional questions because I started asking questions of Umar, and I should have let other people do it. But thanks so much, Umar, for joining us, and Jamie, and also you, Carl. Great stuff, and look forward to talking with you guys later as well. So have a great day.